Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's service. And the sermon today is titled Mission of Reconnection. Mission of Reconnection. And the reason I titled it that way is because most of you, that we have a mission trip that's called Crossing Borders. And we go into Mexico. But because of COVID, for the last 2.5 years, we haven't been able to go into Mexico. And so it inspired me to give this sermon and show you some photos as we go along, titled Mission of Reconnection. Let me read you a few verses as we get started here. This will be out of Acts chapter 2, and we'll start in verse 42. And the time frame here is the day of Pentecost and thereabouts, and the church, the birthday of the church, beginning of the church. And so here toward the end of the chapter, it's talking about the apostles and the new believers. And it says this, it said, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. So there's a lot of talk in there about unity and being together, being connected. And I think it's one of those things that God has built into us as human beings. Going back to the mission trip, although we haven't been able to go into Mexico itself for a couple of years, myself and some others have continued to go down to the border and continued the Crossing Borders ministry on the U.S. side of the border. So we did deepen some good bonds there over the last couple of years, and that was nice. Sue and I now have 2 godchildren. They're on the border in Mexico from a family that we've known for years and years. And during those 2 years that we couldn't go down there, we kept trying to stay in contact with the people through digital means, I guess it's called. And so we would call on the phone. For those that had phones, we would text. We would use Facebook Messenger, all these ways you can communicate with people these days. And we tried to continue to help our friends even on the Mexico side of the border with their needs during that 2.5 years. And thankfully, because of many financial supporters of the mission trip, we were able to help an appreciable amount financially of these people across the border. They really got hit hard with COVID, worse than we did here in the U.S. Some of our partners died. Others were very, very sick and hospitalizations, so a lot of expense there. One of them, their car absolutely, totally gave out. They'd been repairing it for years and was not able to repair it anymore, and we were able to help them buy a used car. A storm came through in 2021 that toppled billboards and blew the roof off of buildings and homes and the places we go to, the pastor's house, the children's home, orphanage. Gas line was broken, a concrete wall blew down. All this had to be repaired and rebuilt. There were medical issues, of course, other than COVID that came up, some family crises that we were able to help them with. But digital and online and by phone is not the same as in person. And so you know how it is when you haven't seen somebody that you care about, your heart begins to ache for personal contact. You get letters, phone calls, those are good, but they're not like being there. And so we missed that connection. So we decided we would make this our mission of reconnection, to get back in connection with the folks. I remember a quote from one of our early years after we'd gone over on several trips and had gotten to know certain of the pastors and others very well. They just really began to hunger for just our presence, just coming over, just being there and encouraging them. They found that so encouraging that these people from around the U.S. would fly and drive and then get on bus and head to the border and spend several days with them across the border. And I remember one of them early on said, if Crossing Borders, your people from Crossing Borders came to see us and didn't bring any gifts at all with you, Your presence alone would be worth the trip. And I always thought that was a meaningful statement. So the trip sort of evolved into a mission of encouragement, which takes connection. To be encouraging, you have to know the people, and they have to feel your love and your care for them. And so after 2.5 years, we tried to reconnect with folks. We didn't take a lot of gifts this time. We didn't plan a lot of activities. We didn't have any building projects going on, work projects. We just scheduled time to sit and to talk and to listen and to pray together, eat some good meals, just that kind of thing. We shared our hearts and our trials, listened to their plans for the future. They asked us about our plans for the future. We learned a lot about their personal lives, their families, their struggles. And in fact, one of our teams said, I think we learned more about our ministry partners on this one trip than we did in all the other trips previously combined. And I think that's true. So what I'd like to do now is show you a few photos and just run through a number of photos, and it'll tell you some of the stories about the trip and about the people that we go down to be with. So let's do that. Let's look at our first photo. Now this lady may look familiar to many of you. That's my mom. And she is, I guess, the official cookie baker for the mission trip. She used to be able to go on the mission trip and to do help us with our meals, cook our meals there at the camp where we stay. And now that she's not able to physically go on the trip anymore, but she can sure bake cookies. And she baked about 500 cookies and a birthday cake, which she's holding there in her hand. And you'll see that in a few minutes. And so we took about 500 cookies in boxes, all labeled up for this children's home or that orphanage or this church group or this family. And we took them all down there and distributed them around, and everybody loves getting those. And that's part of connection right there when you get free cookies, I'm telling you. So let's see. Let's move ahead. Here I'm driving down by myself, well, not by myself, with a couple other people in the truck, but we're driving to the border, and this is kind of the last few miles. I just wanted you to see what a day on the road looks like heading to Mexico. This is the entrance to the camp where we house on the U.S. side. It's called Laredo Stepping Stone. The next picture will show you a closer up of their signage there at the gate. And you see it says Missions and Restoration Center. Come and rest. Find restoration and renewal. And we use it. Lots of other missionaries use it in groups. And part of the connection is resting and just coming to be with people, to have restoration. And so I felt that was pretty fitting. The next photo just shows the main building of the camp, and that's sort of the dormitories and the dining hall, meeting rooms are in there. Just wanted to see. It's a little rustic, but it's nice. It's air conditioned inside all the rooms. That's good. This is one of the trails there on the premises where you can just go walk down the trail and enjoy nature around you and pray and watch out for scorpions and rattlesnakes while you're doing it. So here's a cactus. It's I guess it's going to be blooming, or maybe already has bloomed. I don't know, but they'll have some pretty blossoms on it. Those are just the buds right there. And this is the prayer pond at the main camp. And this has been there for a number of years, but it keeps getting improved and improved all the time. And so it's a real pretty fountain. It's concrete bottom. They fill it up. They keep it good and clean. It's got some chutes spraying water out there, and a kind of a bird bath thing in the middle. There's beautiful lighting all around it at night, different colors of light, and benches around. And it's a real quiet place off on one edge of the camp. And so it's a good place to just go sit and think and pray. This is the family that we've known for many, many years. They've been staying at Laredo Stepping Stone for the last couple years since COVID hit. They normally would be living in Mexico. Our two God boys are the big tall one in the green shirt on the right hand side, and then the littler fellow with the Superman shirt on the left hand side. So, and the other boy in the middle, he's God parented by one of our other Crossing Borders families. So let's see, nice folks. This is the wife. Now every year we go down there, usually in June. This year it was July, but her birthday's in June. traditionally, we go down and we always have a birthday party for Lisa. That's who this is. And this year, with all the post-COVID stuff and them living on the U.S. side and our schedule being off by a month, she wasn't expecting a birthday party. But my mom had made her a birthday cake there, and we carefully took it down there and kept it cool in the drive. It's about a 10-hour drive from here to the border where we cross. And so we had a surprise birthday party the first night we were there for Lisa. And she cried, and she had opened presents that we brought her, and we helped her eat her cake and some ice cream, and it was a good time. So again, the reconnection, we're trying to stay intimately involved with the lives of the people and just let them know that other people away from where they are care about them. Let's see, here we are, our first day in Mexico. We've crossed over to a church. You see up there our group, there's just 5 of us in our group, and the woman is, the pastor is a woman. She's the second from the right, and then her husband's the one with his arms raised, and he's a musician and helps her in all kinds of ways. We're standing on top of the first floor of their church. This is the roof, as you would say, of their church where they've been meeting for several years. We first started going to this church several years ago, 7, 8 years ago. There was nothing. There was a chain link fence and grass, and that was it. And they just build as they can, and we've helped them a little bit along the way financially. And so they've built out the bottom floor, which you'll see here in just a minute, and now they're beginning to wall up the second floor. And I would expect in maybe a couple of years, depending on how things go, they'll have maybe the second floor finished. So that's exciting. Here we are inside of the first floor, and it's pretty comfortable in there. Of course, it's not air conditioned, but you see some fans up on the wall. If you look close, you can see some electrical outlets in the wall. When we first started going there, none of that was there. It was, even as the building began to be built, there was no electricity up until less than a year ago, and we were able to send them some funds, and they were able to get electricity put into the building, and that helps a lot. They filled that building up with about 80 people on a Sunday. A lot of kids and family, and so they cooked us a meal, which is always good when you get real native Mexican food cooked by the folks that live around there. And we just spent 2.5 hours just telling stories, asking questions, laughing, talking, praying with each other. It was just really, really great. So this is our group as we kind of got ready to load up and leave here in just a few minutes. And they had some of these young folks there that day, and they were the servers, and they did a great job at keeping us stocked up with chips and dip and tamales and all the goodies that were there. So I thought that was good for the kids. So here we are. We're at another place now. This is the afternoon. And let's see, the lady kind of on the right with the big broad-brimmed hat, and then the fella sort of on the left that's in looks like kind of a maroon-colored shirt, standing back close to the vans. Those are the 2 people who operate this ministry. They do a lot in the neighborhoods. They teach children after they get out of school, mentoring, tutoring kind of things. They do classes for ladies, Bible studies, classes for teenagers. They teach Bible several days a week to different kinds of groups. They do food drives. They help with the local community in their neighborhood, trash cleanup days. They just do a lot of different ministry work, and they're well liked in the ministry. So there they are, and they're now on an acre of land. And when we were out there a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, it was all wooded. It was just trees and brush and stickers and cactus. So now they've got it all scraped off and leveled off, and they've got a chain link fence all the way around the outside of it, and they're ready to start building. And they hope to build a college to teach pastors Bible lessons, and help them become better pastors. They also plan to have children that are in orphanages when they get to be 17, 18 years old. Of course, they have to leave the orphanage. Many of them aren't prepared for real life, so they hope to have some housing here and to have some training for these students for several months into how real life operates and help them learn budgeting and earning money and finding a job and all kinds of things like that. They also plan to have children there, a lot of classes, and so forth. So they got big plans for this 1 acre of land. So that's cool. This is most of our group and them. And it's just a big square of dirt right now, but it'll be something before you know it. After that, we're back at the camp where we stay, and we've crossed back over to the U.S., and that evening they're doing a grocery bag giveaway to the neighborhood around the camp, and they do this, I think, every week. We helped them a little bit with that. We didn't have time to do a lot with them, but we helped them some. And they give away a bunch of food to the neighborhood, so that's good. All right. Now this is our second night there. The little red-haired boy you see there, and that Barbara is the lady there. She's the godmother of Benji. And Benji didn't know it until just a minute or two before this picture was taken, that he was getting a surprise birthday party too. His birthday was a little bit later. It wasn't quite there yet, but he was turning 13, so that was a biggie. So we went ahead and decided to have a birthday party for Benji. He's a Spider-Man guy, so all the napkins and tablecloths and everything was Spider-Man oriented, and he loved it all. So 2 surprise birthday parties. Here he is with his Spider-Man shirt and a few of his toys that he got. He's a happy camper. The next day we crossed back into Mexico again. This is Pastor Rendon and his wife Lupita, and they run an orphanage that we visited, 20, 25 times over the years, I would guess. They've had some health struggles. She almost died from COVID, and he's got serious heart troubles, and he had COVID, I think, twice, and they had other issues health-wise mixed in with that over the last couple of years too. So that was kind of touch and go for both of them, but there they are, and they're smiling, and they're doing okay right now. Here he's giving us a tour around the place. That block wall behind him, we were able to help give some support to get that rebuilt. It just totally fell over in the storm. It was just blown over, and they couldn't have children in there without a security wall around it. So they had to get some gas line repaired that had broken and the wall rebuilt. I think another slide, there's another shot of the wall. Okay. The next slide, this shows they've been doing some patching and rebuilding of their ceilings. The roof came off, was blown off in several places, and of course then it came through the attic, and the ceiling caved in into the bedrooms of the children, and so they're slowly getting things put back together. And again, we've been able to help them some through Crossing Borders and our supporters. Here we are at the same place. I'm on this end of the jump rope. Steve's on the other end of the jump rope, and kids always love jump rope. So we take these 20-foot jump ropes and we wear our arms totally out while the kids jump and jump and jump until they can't jump anymore and we can't throw the rope anymore. So that's fun. We're inside, same place, and some of our group, we brought a bunch of games and toys, and so we're showing them how to play some of the games, and they're loving it. Sometimes there's a language barrier, but you can point and demonstrate and smile, and they catch on pretty quick. So that was good. Here we are outside on the porch. Again, more games, more kids. They're just having a grand old time. Let's see. Here we are inside again. Now this is lunchtime. We ran up the road. We either have to feed the kids pizza or hot dogs. It seems like every time we come down, they either want pizza or hot dogs. And I guess they don't get either one very much. So this was pizza, and we'd gotten pizza. And you can see their heads are bowed, and the little boy by the post with his back toward us, he's leading a prayer, and they always do a prayer before their meals. And they all repeat what he says, and it's real sweet. And then they dive into the pizza. here we are all outside. They have more kids than this during the week, but some of the kids on the weekends go back to family members where they stay, and then they come back here and stay all week. But they're building back up after COVID to try to get back up to about 25 or 30 kids. They probably have about 20 right now, 15 to 20. Now we're at a different orphanage in the afternoon, and we got out of the vans. I wish I could have videoed this, but I couldn't get in front fast enough to video it. But as soon as our vans pulled in that real long driveway, the kids come running out of the house, and they're just excited as all get out, and they're screaming and hollering and giggling and running up to the vans, and we're trying not to run over them. And the lady there that is Spanish, but she knows a little bit of English, and so she taught them all to say good morning. And so all of them in their little accent were saying good morning, good morning. So that was cute. So they were excited to see us. This is a car that we helped the lady director here of this orphanage buy. She purchased this like 4 years ago. Her car was just totally gone, and we were able to help her get this used car. It's a 3-seater car, so she can put a bunch of kids in there. She runs them up to school. She comes back, gets another bunch of kids, runs them up to the school, and she has to run up and get them and bring them back home later, and so forth. So she's using it. She said it's a good car. There's Sister Juanita on the left. She's the director, and then Barbara is one of our folks that's been on many trips. And there's some of Mom's cookies in the box that I mentioned earlier. So there's some smiles for the cookies. And here's, we brought again a bunch of toys and stuff. And this is the kids around the table. We just put the toys out there. They haven't started grabbing them or anything and running off with them yet, which is good. So they actually stood still enough we could get a picture of them, which is pretty amazing for a group of kids that age. But they really respect Sister Juanita. She has like no trouble with them really. I'll show you a little video now of just them when we put the presents out, and she's telling them that they can take one. So kind of cool. They're just kids, but they're really well behaved, and we've never had any problems there with them. Oh, they get in a little squabble every now and then, but they work it out, or she works it out for them. She doesn't put up with a lot of that stuff. But good. So here we are with some more toys out on the front porch there. It's 110 degrees literally out in the sun, so we're kind of staying up on the porches a little bit. And I'll get to tell you a quick story here. That's a wasp nest that's up there on the ceiling, and it had 20, 30 wasps on it. And it's right where the kids are playing, and nobody had noticed it, I guess. And then one of their group noticed it, and so they got a stick, and they were going to whack it with a stick. And here we are with all these kids on the porch. We said, I don't think that's a good idea to whack it with a stick. So we're trying to think, we're Americans, we're thinking, where's your poison? Where's your spray? You know, we got to spray this thing with a chemical and get rid of it. Got to stand 20 feet away and spray it. It's the only way to get rid of it. Don't get close to it. Well, this is one of the helpers that works there, the lady. She's real small, but she's a grown lady. And then this boy, I think is her son, and so she wads up this little piece of paper, just one, and he lights it, and it's just barely burning, but it's got smoke, and she stands up there right next to the thing, as you see, and holds it up under the wasp nest. And the wasps come off, and they are flying all around her and that boy. They're just 20, 30 wasps all over the place. None of them pay any attention to them. Don't sting them, don't do anything. And pretty soon the nest is bare, and all the wasps has flown off somewhere. Guess they didn't like the smoke or the heat or something. They must have disoriented. And it's funny, when we were saying get a spray, get a water hose, do this, do that, I said, because I've been on a lot of trips, I said, well, let's see what they do. They probably have a way of handling this. And so I learned, I don't think I'm going to do that, but I learned it works for them to get rid of wasps that way. All right, so this lady lives in she rents this house that they're in, and it's fallen down around their ears. I mean, it's okay, but it's falling down. And there's a group of families, men and their wives and others, Christian people, and the man there in the blue is one of those. And they've decided to help her build a new building for her and the kids. And so they've already bought some land. I think it's about an acre, a little bit more than an acre. And they're showing us the master plan there, the blueprints of the layout of the land. And so in the next 2 or 3 years, they hope to build a home for the children, some classrooms, a lecture hall, cafeteria, have some play areas, of course, a little basketball court, some I'd say grassy areas, but it's usually dirt down there, but still open areas. And they hope to have some like retired missionaries come and live there, maybe for several months at a time, and help with the children and teach them things. And so they've got big plans. And after seeing how those things work out, I think, given a little bit of time, in God's guidance and blessing, they'll have some really good facilities there in just a few years. Their sister Juanita, she has one of her caps on. I had to get a picture with her cap on, crossing borders. All right, now we've left their place. There's this family called the Rodriguez family. That's Mr. Rodriguez right there. This is a picture taken previously. We didn't take this on our trip, but many years ago, 8, 9, 10 years ago, we helped build a little house for them on this property that they had. And they were living in just almost nothing, and we actually built a little house for them, very small. And they're adding to it. They're building 2 more rooms on the property. And again, we were crossing borders, were able to help them buy some of the materials. He's doing all the labor himself. And this was several months ago. This picture was taken. The next picture shows the rooms finished out, and Pedro on the right there, he's one of our folks, and there's the dad. And again, we're just reconnecting. Every trip we go, we try to go by and see these people. We don't stay a long time, maybe an hour. And we maybe sometimes take them some gifts or help them a little bit financially. Mainly, they just want to see us and talk to us, and we want to keep up with them and their 3 kids. And so, mission of reconnection at work again there. Here we are, our little group, and just the mom and dad there. And anyway, so just a good visit. Now, this is Sunday morning now. This is our second day in Mexico. And we went to a church, obviously. And that's the pastor with a tie on. His wife's right next to him. Behind them is one of his daughters, and she leads a dance troupe in the church. And you'll see that in just a minute. The boy to the right is their son, youngest child. And then the girl to the right on the end is their daughter that we've known all of them for years, and she's their worship leader. Excellent singer, musician. The son plays the drums in the worship band, and like I say, the daughter leads the dance chorus. So I think I'll go ahead and tell you a little story before we flip pictures here. We were down there on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. On Saturday, we heard that boy had been kidnapped, and that's not uncommon down there. That's the way people make money. So he was out driving Uber. That was his job, and it was at night, and 4 or 5 guys came up and stopped him and took him out of his car and kidnapped him and took him off, called the parents for ransom. And so for the next 8-10 hours, it was gut-wrenching for them as they tried to raise funds from other very, very poor people, because that's who lives in these communities where we go. And they were able to get some funds raised, and thankfully the kidnappers, although they gave a pretty high ransom at the beginning, realized that they weren't going to get that. These people just didn't have that kind of money. And after a number of hours, the big kid, the young son, was released and came back home to them late Saturday, and then on Sunday morning he was at church playing the drums. And the pastor and his wife both spoke at the church, and they were very open. They told the congregation what had happened, and they told them that they were scared, and they told them it was a trial, and told them they prayed to God and said, "Where are you? And how could this happen to you? We're a good family, and he wasn't doing anything wrong." And you go from hopeful to scared that you're not going to get your son back. And you're asking God, and then you're praying to God, you're begging God, and then you're maybe blaming God. And he said, we went through all those stages multiple times over the course of those hours. And he said, "I just want to tell you that because, I'm your pastor, but I'm not superhuman." And he said, "I have the same struggles as you do." One of his daughters has some serious health issues. And now their son's kidnapped. And, whether you're a Christian or a pastor or whatever, you're still dealing with the same struggles as everybody else. And I thought it was really admirable that he and his wife both spoke about that and let the congregation know what was going on. Of course, probably a number of them already knew, I assume, because they were probably in the call list. Here's their dance troupe, very organized, very, you see the outfits they're wearing. They do several lively praise and worship songs. These girls are all choreographed together. They practice. It's beautiful. I want to show you a video clip of that, and just it's lively and it's fun. So, a little livelier than our music sometimes here in this church, but there's younger folks there moving around. So, and that was their one daughter singing in the background, the center one in the front, the other daughter, and the mom was up on stage leading the worship too. So, good family interaction. Here's, I think, the picture I took where the dad and mom were telling their story, and everybody was really just paying close attention. Let's see, we can move ahead. This is just a shot of the audience. This is 3 or 4 or 5 of our group sitting kind of right there in the chairs, and number in there. I gave the sermon that day. He asked me to in advance, thankfully. He gave me some notice. And Barbara of our group there, she's a good translator, so she was translating my English into good Spanish that they could understand. So let's see. Now we've got, is this another video? Oh boy, let's do it. This is a little drummer boy. I titled it Little Drummer Boy. So that, I believe, is one of the grandchildren of the pastor and his wife. So, the one son is the drummer of the band, and you can see the grandson's, moving that direction. It won't be too many more years. He might be the drummer. All right, so here's our group photo before, again, they fed us a wonderful lunch after this, and we were able to visit and talk and just reconnect what we were there for. This is the car that last year we were able to help them purchase. It's a used car, but their truck that they had just kept breaking down, and they'd piece it together and fix it, and finally it just died. And so they needed something, and we were in a position to help them and wanted to get a shot of it there. Let's see, we're getting close to the end here. This is another pastor and his wife. They used to have a church in this city, Nuevo Laredo, where we go. They don't any longer have a church there. They've moved about 6 hours farther interior, and that's where they're starting a new church, building a building and gathering people together in that community. Apparently there weren't a lot of Christians in that area, but there's more and more now, thanks to these folks. So Pastor Pedro and his wife Loudres, and they've got a Crossing Borders hat on too. We were giving hats away. So it was good to catch up with them. We haven't seen them in a couple of trips, plus the 2.5 years, so it might have been 3 to 4 years since we've seen them. So that was more reconnecting time there. A race car there in the grocery store where we were meeting them. I just had to try it out. So you don't have to dwell on that picture too long. And this is us, our group and their group. I mean, the two of them and our group, I should say. So the young gal standing right next to me, she's of that family, the Rodriguez family. She wasn't at the house today. We were at the house. She knew we were coming, and so on Sunday we had made prior arrangements to pick her and her boyfriend up, and we took them around with us to the spots we visited on Sunday. So she got to reconnect with us also. So here we are, kind of our final morning before everybody heads back out. One of our group is taking the picture, but the others of us are standing there. It's a Laredo Stepping Stone, if you can make that out on the sign. I say our group's all there. There's actually one of our group missing. It was the husband of one of the ladies there. And he decided the day before we were going to leave that he would have a gallbladder attack, and never had one before, but they had to take him to the emergency room and scheduled him for emergency surgery the next morning. So he got to spend a couple extra days at the border in the hospital. It was pretty serious surgery. They were able to do it laparoscopically, and so he was able to travel. He was in the vehicle with me. It was him and his wife and me in my vehicle that we drove down there. And so I was able to hang around and wait on him a couple of days until he could travel, and we got him back home. And so I took this picture like, well, the trip's over, but not quite over. So there we were at the medical center. So I think that's the last picture. Yeah, that's the last picture. So just some stories there. I wanted you to kind of get a feel of what we were doing on that trip. I do want to tell you, I want to read another scripture for you here in Romans 12, verses 4 and 5. Again, just stressing the idea of the personal connections that we make, not just across borders to foreign countries, but that we make in our families, the kind of connections we want to make with our neighbors and in our community and our church family. That's why we call it church family a lot of times, is there should be a connectivity there between each other at a church. And let's see, if we go to Romans 12, verses 4 and 5, just kind of breaking into a longer segment, it says, "For just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others." So we all are different personalities, different gifts, different all kinds of things about us. But it tells us here that we're brought together in Christ, through Christ, and that many of us form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. And really, when you think of even just humanity as a whole, everybody made in the image of God all over the world, the family that we are there and how we belong to each other, even if people will never ever meet in this life, and still they're children of God, and we're family with them together. God designed us to be together. He's a God of togetherness. He's the Trinity. He's the Father and the Son and the Spirit, but He's one being. Now, He's the only one that can pull that off. But that right there tells us that God's not a lonely God. He's not a standalone God. He's not a Lone Ranger kind of God. From all eternity, He's been Father and Son and Spirit. He's been in relationship, in connectivity with Himself. And so as we go out person to people, close, intimacy, those are words that we use to describe the kind of relationships we want to have, whether it's in our families, neighborhoods, blood relatives, church family, wherever it is. I just encourage us to remember that, to come together every chance that we can. Again, whatever group that you're a part of, a club, a family gathering, family reunions, anything that might be going on. If you can be there with family, go and add your part, because we all are one in God and in Christ in that sense. And in closing, before the benediction, the last verse, John 17, verses 20 and 21. This is Jesus praying his final prayer the night before He was crucified. he said a lot of things, but one thing he said here, he says, my prayer, as he prays to the Father, is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so the world may believe that you sent me. So there's that unity, that love that comes directly from the Father, brings us together in connection, in reconnection, in encouragement, in unity. And so I just ask that God would make us one in himself. In closing, let me offer this prayer. Father, Son, and Spirit, the God who exists in Trinitarian community and unity, thank you for living in us and giving us the desire to be together in the oneness of your presence. Give us your heart of unity and make us one, Lord, in thought, word, and deed. Amen.